I should have done that earlier, but thank you. So let me follow up Teresa's announcement with an announcement about another opportunity. Appalachian State University, my institution where I teach, we're going to be holding an International Mountain Studies Conference. We're thinking about calling it Mountain Worlds. We're playing with that title, but just hold on and maybe that'll be it. But the idea for the conference, it will be an International Mountain Studies Conference held in Boone, North Carolina at Appalachian State University in early October of 2024. So lots of exciting things happening in the fall of 2024. That save the date. We don't have an official call for papers out yet, but we're hoping to get a save the date announcement out here at the holiday break before things get busy again in the spring. So mark your calendars and plan to come to Appalachian State. That conference will be focusing on the humanities and social sciences. It's not that we don't like to work with our science colleagues, but one of the things that we've identified, I think, in mountain studies world right now is that there's a lot of opportunities and places and conferences and journals and organizations for our science-minded colleagues who are doing, incredible work on climate change and glaciology and, hard science topics to really share those. There's also a lot of space to share at conferences and in journals information about development, sustainable development in mountain spaces, and tourism development, sustainable mountain tourism in mountain spaces. So we're hoping that our conference in Boone in fall of 2024 will be an opportunity for social sciences and humanities focused people to come together and share information and research about mountain places. So does anyone want to share something or make a comment?
Why don't you, the thing that I'm thinking of right now that I would encourage folks to consider, I was fortunate, and Catherine, you can talk too, because you were heading out. I was fortunate in fall of 21 to receive a Fulbright teaching and research grant. And I taught Appalachian literature with a coal focus to third-year American Studies students at Transylvania University. And I was conducting research and interviews in the Jiu Valley, which is the coal mining region of Romania. In fact, just yesterday, Yulia Salka, who Gabriella Shefnu and I are co-advising, she's a doctoral student at Transylvania. It was in Romanian yesterday, and so she conducted another interview with a former Romanian coal miner who is an entrepreneur. And anyway, my point is that I highly encourage you to consider Fulbright. It is a wonderful opportunity, not only just, in fact, I'm working on an article that was due Sunday to Jeddah, and I will get it done. Not only just personally, in terms of my research, but also just being connected to some incredibly bright and interesting people in the Fulbright family. As an example, we were fortunate at this past Appalachian Carpathian Mountain Conference in October. The current scholar, Fulbright scholar, her name is Renee Laprette. She is an organist. In fact, she was one of the last folks who played the organ at Notre Dame before the fire. She's incredibly talented, and she played on a restored organ in Harmon, which is a fortified church, an old Saxon village dating back to the 13th century. She played the organ for our Appalachian Carpathian Mountain Conference participants. So anyway, just highly recommend a Fulbright. Catherine, do you want to say something about yours?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Teresa, for bringing that up. The origins of the whole Appalachian Carpathian connection that is becoming so fruitful for us, I think on both sides, the Appalachian and the Carpathian side, really emerged. The origins are in Fulbright. So Teresa and I have a couple of colleagues, Chris Green and
Chris Miller.
Chris Miller and
Don
Don
Davis.
Davis. Yeah, I'm losing all of you can hear I have a cold, my entire head. Sorry, folks, I've got the tissues here, but I've got a cold. Anyway, those two fellows, Don Davis and Chris Miller, both had Fulbrights in Ukraine, in the Carpathian region of Ukraine, a long time ago, about a decade ago or more. And that's kind of the origins of this. So yes, and Teresa followed up and is completed that Fulbright in Romania. I leave in a few weeks for Jordan. So I'll be teaching kind of what Teresa did. I'll be teaching Appalachian and mountain literature, mountain studies in an American English department, American literature department at a private university in Amman, Jordan. So again, opportunities to make connections with mountain people who are interested in mountains in that part of the world. Becky Fletcher, not to put you on the spot, but I believe you all have some exciting things going on at ETSU, and I know we have at least one graduate student, Christiane from ETSU, here with us. There may be more folks, but do you want to say anything about what you all have going on over at ETSU?
Hi, Catherine. Hello, everybody. Yeah, we have a variety of things happening, and our semester has been a little overwhelming. Our department just celebrated a giant, I think it was the 40th year of our bluegrass old time and roots music program. So we've been celebrating all semester and retired. But lots of great music and international connections, making with music. We actually have 5 Hungarian students in our department now who are amazing musicians, and I hear them every now and then. They'll play for a class they're in that's just on the other side of my office, so it's a lot of fun. And many of you know Pablo Rabarek, who is Ukrainian and is a graduate student in our department, who has been working on completing his master's thesis. He has been in Ukraine since the war began, and Ron Roach has been our direct link with him and his family. So we're trying to stay in touch with him, and he's doing some work as an interpreter at the moment there. So other things that we're doing, we just celebrated our first year of the Appalachian Places magazine. That's an online magazine that our center does. Oh, Amanda, you're familiar with it. Yay. So we're very proud of it. And so it's the revised version of the Now and Then magazine that more people may remember. That was a print only magazine, but was there for many, many years. And like many things, print versions are very hard to maintain. So we took a little time off to regroup, and we've been back at it for a year. And I'll stick that in the chat in a minute with the direct link. If you have a chance, check it out, read our articles, and please submit. We would love to have, submissions from you. Anything to do with mountains is really what it's about. Although it's Appalachian Places, we understand Appalachian Places exist everywhere. And it's also about ideas and ways of being and living and thinking and doing, not specifically just in our geographic place. So I'll put that link in there for you all. And, you know, Christy Ann probably has other things that I'm forgetting at the moment. And she's a graduate student doing fantastic work in our program. So if you want to say hello, Christy Ann.
Hi, everyone. We do have our string band summit, our second. Our inaugural was last year, and we had some amazing string band musician connections. We had folks from Venezuela, Mexico, all over South and Central America. And I got to learn about Mexilachin and Venezuelan music. So yeah, that will be the weekend right before Valentine's Day. So I believe it's February 10th through 12th. And that is going to be, last year was free for all students. I believe it will be the same this year. So I could get some information about that from anybody who's interested in attending.
Thank you. That's a great report from things that are going on over at ETSU. Anybody else want to share some interesting connections, either in Appalachia or from international partners that you all have going on?
Yeah, if I may. Sorry. Please.
Gabriella.
No. After you, please. No? Okay. So I just wanted to say that the connection for us in Brașov, Romania, started with the Carpathian Appalachian Conference. And that was a very pleasant surprise for me because I knew very little about that. That was, I think, 7 years ago. And from then on, I have been learning and I'm still learning. So it was a possibility for us to learn new things and to meet new people. And we have met first Donald Davis. I think he started. He was the first one who came, and he and Jetta and Christian were co-organizers of the conference here. It was very interesting for the students from the American Studies program because they were involved in the conference and they enjoyed it a lot. And then we have built up closer relations with people that have visited and that have taught and worked with us. And I think it has been a very, how should I put it, a very generous opportunity for us all. And that's about everything I wanted to say. But it has been very enriching for both ourselves as teachers and for the students, definitely. So it was a very, very good experience for all of us.
And I will just say on Gabriella's heels there that as a result of that 2015 conference, Radford University, where I am, and Transylvania University entered into an Erasmus Plus agreement, which I would also recommend you all look into. The Erasmus agreement is with universities in the EU. The Erasmus Plus is outside of the EU, hence the United States. And thanks, Jetta, for putting that. And so what that does, it allows faculty, we have faculty exchanges. For example, Jetta and Christy, her husband, came over to Southwest Virginia, where I am, this summer for 2 weeks. And it was more of a research-based trip. But we've also, like, I went over and taught in 2017. We've had students go back and forth. We've had Radford University students study at Transylvania University, and Yulia Salka, the doctoral student that Gabriella and I are co-advising, she first came over to Radford and studied in 2019, and she's coming back this spring semester to study with me. So that's another program that I would encourage you all at your institutions to look into, because as Gabriella said, it bears a lot of beautiful fruit.
Amanda, I think you were wanting to say something.
Oh, I was just going to hop on and mention that I had just had a really interesting conversation with Jeannie Gindra at the Mad Dog Center for Welsh Studies at the University of Rio Grande. And I recently have been really pushing for Southern Ohio to get its due as part of Appalachia, like the foothills region. And not even Southeastern Ohio. Everyone thinks about Athens, but there's more south of that, including Rio Grande and the very Welsh area there. But she is retiring in June, so we only really have her for 6 more months. And I just wanted to mention to people if they're interested in that, like she's such a great resource and has just been just really wonderful. So if anyone is interested in that Welsh connection, reach out to her now while we have her.
Yeah, Amanda, thank you. A lot of our attention is going to be on Appalachian, Ohio. The Appalachian Studies Association Conference is going to be held this March at Ohio University in Athens, Ohio. So I think a lot of good attention and a lot of love is going to come your way from Appalachianists who are interested in the mountains, the Appalachian Mountains there in Ohio.
I hope so.
Yeah, we're excited. For those of you who don't know, we have an annual conference. The Appalachian Studies Association puts on an annual conference. It's usually in March every year, and it rotates around the region, the Appalachian region. So I wanted to highlight a few connections that if people are interested in, I'll put my email, y'all probably all have my email, but I'll put my email in the chat in a minute. And you can certainly follow up with me or follow up with Teresa Burris, another of their International Connections Committee committee members on this Zoom right now. But I'd like to say that we in Appalachian Studies as a field have connections with, well, I know we've been talking a lot about our Carpathian connections, very vibrant, very strong and growing right now. We also have established connections. Amanda was referring to Wales. So there's a long tradition in Appalachian studies coming from the late 1960s, early 1970s of Welsh and Appalachian coal miners being in connection. So there was some amazing work done by Helen Lewis and Patricia Beaver and folks in those early days of Sally Maggart, I think also making connections between Wales and Appalachia over the issue of coal. That's continued. I have a colleague, Tom Hansel at Appalachian State University, who has a documentary called After Coal, and a book of that on that subject as well. So lots of nice ways to make connections between Wales and Appalachia. We also have growing connections in South Africa. So we here at Appalachian State University have connections with a group at the University of the Free State. The University of the Free State has a research unit called the Afro-Montane Research Unit. Afro-Montane Research Unit at the University of the Free State in South Africa. And we have some partnerships going, like Teresa was saying, we've had students and faculty exchanges happen between our mountains and the mountains in South Africa. So I'd love to see more folks in Appalachia get connected with those people in South Africa. We also have connections growing in Scotland. I just got back from Scotland, from St. Andrews. There's some people at St. Andrews doing work on mountains. And there are also people at Perth. It's the coolest name of the university. I say that every time, but it's called the University of the Highlands and Islands at Perth, Scotland. They have a Center for Mountain Studies. Sustainable Mountain Studies is their master's degree. So some interesting folks there. I know we've had cultural connections for a long time through music and folk stories, folklore with Scotland and Wales and Ireland, but we also have some other types of connections as well. We also have connections with European folks. We know people in the Alps French Alps, Becky Fletcher, and I think we're the only ones on the call right now. We're in Grenoble, France at the University of Grenoble, making connections back in September. So lots of exciting things. People are really curious about us here in Appalachia, and I think we're curious about other mountain peoples around the world. So would anybody like to share other connections that are going on?
Hey, Catherine, I might add that our department has the Scottish and Irish Studies program that has been going for 25 plus years. And so every 2 years, we have a study abroad course, and it's actually been canceled the past couple of years with COVID and all of that. But this summer, it looks like it's a for sure go. But Dr. Jane McMorran is the director of that program. And so through that, and I was fortunate enough to get to go last time they went. But we have wonderful connections in Northern Ireland and in Scotland and in many places. So Edinburgh and Glasgow and Inverness and in the Highlands. So and it's a undergraduate, graduate class. So it's fantastic for students. It's can't say enough about that, but we've been working on those connections for a long time. And Liam Campbell was a Baszler Chair Scholar at ETSU. I guess it's been about 4 or 5 years ago now, but he's been a wonderful contact to help put students and other groups in touch. So, but that's one more ongoing connection that we have. And I'm super excited to hear about the Welsh work that Amanda is working on. But I lived in Eastern Kentucky for many years, so I'm really familiar with Southern Ohio, and I'll be up there sometime over break to visit my in-laws. So it's a beautiful place too.
Thanks, Becky, for sharing that. I just wanted to point out Victoria is on the call. She just joined us. She is actually zooming in from Kharkiv, Ukraine. Victoria, do you want to say something?
Yeah, hello everyone. I would like to greet you from the heart of the Ukrainian Carpathians and send you warmest greetings on this cold winter day, and wish you a successful work for today.
And Victoria just shared, she is part of an organization that is trying to support, well, that is supporting fellow Ukrainians who have left the areas where the intense fighting is occurring. And so, Victoria, should I drop a link in the chat box about
or
them?
I can also, because this link it already has lots of other ideas and other projects. So to support our initiative, I can simply copy paste the text of my message on LinkedIn. So yeah, and everyone can have a look at what we are doing. Well, if you don't mind, I will tell a few words about my background. I'm sorry that I'm not using cam, but we have power cuts, and using web camera, it loads the connection. So the internet might drop if I use both mic and video. Since 2004, I've been working for the Carpathian Biosphere Reserve, which is one of the oldest protected areas in Ukraine. It's a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve since 1992, but was founded as Nature Reserve in 1968. And that's how we actually met with Teresa and with her colleagues. And we had a wonderful event in Kharkiv connecting Carpathian, Ukrainian Carpathian mountains and Appalachian experience, and lots of great presentations. It was wonderful. Since 2016, I'm also in parallel working for the municipality, for the municipal government, as the head of Department of Socio-Economical Development and International Cooperation. I stay with the Biosphere Reserve as a part-time job as a research team member. And on top of that, we have our own ecological NGO, which is called Rahiv Ecotour. It's tour because we try to develop ecotourism as an alternative source of income for a local population, which was very popular before this tragedy happened to Ukraine. So in all of these three instruments, which I have in my hands, overlap together. Now our main activity is actually to fight the consequences of this unjustified aggression against Ukraine. So as a municipal team member, I have access to public shelters where we accommodate today over 100 of internally displaced persons, but totally in my community, there are a few thousands, but these people, they found rented flats or some locals allowed them to stay with the family. For many of them, it will be permanent home, I think. I mean, my town, not shelter. I hope that in future we can offer them something better, because some of them have simply lost their houses, lost their dear ones. That's why through my NGO, we are trying, because it's easier than working with official, let's say, local government and stuff. Through NGO, we are raising funds to improve the living conditions, because the municipality gave them kindergartens. It's all we could give. Part of the local kindergartens, they work for local children. They are open as a kindergarten. And 3 of them, they are used as shelters. Of course, it's not sufficient for family of adults to stay on small beds, to use these small wardrobes for their clothes. For 1-2 nights, it's okay, but not for 10 months. So we've already refurbished the cooking unit. We bought special metal tables for food preparations, more than they had before, because the load is bigger. It's 3-time meals, which is provided by the municipality. So all the rest is covered, of course, by the municipal government. So water supply, heating, electricity. Also, people who usually work as teachers for kindergarten, they work as a team who are supporting the given shelter, and the municipality is paying their salary. So more or less, it's well organized, but we do lack proper equipment of the interior. And of course, for 10 months of staying there, like a crowd of people were sleeping on the floor in the beginning because they were many. Now they are fewer, they are a few dozens in each of the shelters. Before they were over 100 in each, and it was very loaded. Of course, the premises themselves, they are worn out. But the repairings, we hope that the municipal government will find enough budget next year to step by step repair what's inside and improve it. So what Teresa was trying to tell you is that I've shared with her a link with a description about our initiative to improve their living conditions. And if you have a wish to support us, you are free to do that using the credentials which will be provided to you in the description. But apart from that, we are still a beautiful town called Rahiv, which lies in the very heart of the Ukrainian Carpathians, surrounded by medium-high mountains, still beautiful, not as high as yours, a bit lower. Very similar landscapes to what I've seen from the pictures of Appalachians, and I haven't been there yet, but who knows. Living probably similar lifestyle, forestry, tourism, and of course, nature protection, nature conservation. So that's what we are, what we do. Unfortunately, the ugly war has changed our lifestyle. And instead of telling you about the beauties, the first priority was to tell you about these disasters and the ways of mitigation. Yeah, probably all of our daily activities now are connected to the military intervention in Ukraine. But let's hope that it will be over quite soon. With your support from you personally and from your government, from other governments, we are deeply grateful for that. And you are invited to come and compare to peaceful Ukraine and to see how beautiful this land is. So thanks for giving me the floor, this wonderful gathering. Thanks a lot. And yeah, cheers from Rakhiv.
Thank you, Victoria.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely. Thank you. I know many of us have colleagues and friends in Ukraine in the mountains, and you know, we've had two events, Zoom events organized by this International Connections Committee of the Appalachian Studies Association to try to make some connections and give them some support, and there's some good opportunities. I think Becky Fletcher, you all over at ETSU also have, because of our connections with Pavlov and his family, you have some things set up over there for ways that people could support our Ukrainian mountain friends and colleagues.
Yes,
Yeah.
we do. Our graduate students, the students for Appalachian Studies, have a fundraiser that's been going up, and I should have found that link coming into the meeting today to share. So they've been collecting money and have, I believe it's, Christiane, is it through PayPal?
It's through GoFundMe, and I can
GoFundMe, that's the
I can
right one.
find the link and post it.
Thank you, Christiane. Yes, so they've been you know, having at different events doing some fundraising and have been able to share several $100s so far toward helping our friends in Ukraine. I just want to say, Victoria, it's so wonderful to hear your voice today. We met on when I for the conference in Rakhiv a few years ago, and it's a magical place, and you're all in my thoughts and prayers. So
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. It means a lot.
So
Thank you all.
Victoria, so I have a question, and maybe some of the young people on here can help me understand. Because Victoria, there was an email attached, an email address attached to for PayPal. How does that work?
It's enrolled to the corporate card of the NGO Rakhiv Kultur. It's connected to the bank card.
Okay, so like if we donate, how does that work with that email? I mean, with that email address?
It's a PayPal account.
Okay.
It's a PayPal account, and then from the account we make direct payments to the shop where we buy furniture or other stuff when we accumulate enough amount of money, of course.
Okay.
So it's like a PayPal account.
So here,
I don't know, maybe you have some other registration form, I mean, PayPal registration, but for us, it's email, it's registered on the email account. And the confirmation you give also phone number of some of the members, some physical person who is responsible.
Okay, and I just put the PayPal email address in the chat, Victoria, so that folks can.
Yeah, I'm trying to connect the whole text, but I think that the messenger here has restrictions as for chatters because the text is interrupted in the middle.
I saw that. Yeah. So I went ahead and just copied it from the LinkedIn so that folks have it.
If you can, yes, if you can copy the LinkedIn link, then I think it will be better.
Okay, let me just do that too.
Right, and I think we've got, is it Shipra from India, who has joined us? So is that, yes,
Hi.
hello. Hi, welcome.
It's almost midnight here.
Oh my goodness, you're a dedicated person.
Yes.
Do you have
Yes.
any connections with us in Appalachia, or how did you find us?
Yeah, I found out on HNet, if I'm not wrong. HNet.
Yeah,
And,
H announce, yeah.
Yeah. And since 2014, I was a part of the Climate Emergency Forum in India, and I was exploring in the Himalayan region and then Sichuan province of China. So I'm working towards a small documentary of the people in the mountains, life and living of people in the mountain. So I was interested to know more about how the people across the globe working towards this theme.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here. And if you don't mind, if you feel comfortable, we'd love to have your email. I don't know if it's hard for me to keep up with the chat while we're having a conversation, but if you haven't yet, put your email.
My email ID is Shipra, SHIPRA, Shipra1999@gmail.com. It's there in the message.
Okay, great. Thank you. We'd love to. I bet some of us would like to get in touch with you. It sounds amazing. A documentary on mountain people in that part of the world. That sounds right up our alley for learning more about commonalities. So wonderful. I do know, let's see, I'm trying to think, maybe Teresa or Becky or anybody else on here who do we know of any Appalachian Studies connections, specific connections in the Himalayan region? I know some at App State. I have a colleague in geography working with National Geographic in the Mount Everest region, but it's on climate. It's not a cultural thing.
Okay, so you can put him or her in touch with me. So I'm an archaeologist. Yeah, I have studied archaeology.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, welcome. Have you been to Appalachia? Have you been to our mountains?
So that I did in the coastal area of southern India. And then I moved. So I did my master dissertation in the Gangetic Plain, then moved to the down south. And my postdoctoral is in the Himalayan region. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds amazing.
I'm back from my field just last week. I'm back from my field studies. Yeah.
Wonderful. Have you been to the United States?
I got 3 times I got an opportunity to travel, but I couldn't travel because I had assignments here, very teaching assignments here. So if I get a chance, I will definitely would love to visit. Yeah.
Yes, well, our Appalachian Studies conferences every year in March are a great way to get connected with us. And then, of course, I announced earlier, and Teresa, we may want to go ahead and announce this again because I know we've had some people join since we did this.
Okay, definitely. I will.
Wonderful.
Yeah, definitely I'll join. And if you happen to come to India, you're most welcome. Yeah.
Wonderful. That's one of my, as they say, bucket list destinations. I've not had the pleasure of being there, and I really want to come. So another way, Shipra, for you to get involved with us and for many folks to get involved with us is to come to Appalachia in the fall of 2024 in October, the first part of October 2024. My institution, Appalachian State University in Boone, North Carolina is putting on an International Mountain Studies Conference. We are focusing on the humanities and social sciences, but we are not going to be rejecting papers from our scientific and geologic colleagues. We will figure out a way to make things
So-
work if people want to come.
No, I mean, can I bring my documentary, 5 minutes documentary?
We actually, yes,
And-
we will have opportunities for people to share their documentaries, performances, all kinds of things. It will be a very interdisciplinary conference. So we'll be sending out a save the date announcement, and I'll make sure I email that to this list for everybody. Teresa, do you want to share about the next Appalachian Carpathian Conference, which is also happening? 2024 is going to be a big year. The
In
fall of
October.
24.
So yeah, on the, and I want to,
Thank you, sir.
I want to give a shout out to my colleague, Christian Prala,
Hi.
who joined,
Yeah.
and that's Jetta's husband. And the three of us, Jetta, Christy, and I are organizing the 2024 Appalachian Carpathian Mountain Conference in Brasov and Viskry. And just be looking for information about that. Christy, do you want to say something about DEEP? I mean, we have a colleague from India, from Calcutta, who has participated in a couple of the Appalachian Carpathian Mountain Conferences.
Yeah, he almost participated at this past Appalachian Carpathian Conference, but he got caught by life. But I'm pretty sure he will join us again, I think, in the future. But I think he's from Kolkata, so he used to teach at Techno India University. I don't know, if he's still there, or I have to talk to him. But yeah, he actually wrote an article with Chris Baker a while back. Something about bees.
And the other one was about Kashmir.
Oh, two ones,
Yes.
right? Yeah, and another one with Kashmir.
I'm here, but I cannot be seen somehow. I don't know. Sorry.
It's the background.
It's the background and it's the camera. So
Yep. And
he
so,
wrote, yes, he
speaking-
participated with us 2 times.
Yeah,
Yes.
in 2015 and 2019.
15, he wrote with Chris Baker an article and he published in the bulletin of our university. And then in 2019, he wrote about Kashmir, I think. And
Okay.
yes.
And I will say that the background for Jetta and
Yes.
Christy,
I'll check.
is our, that was our,
Yeah,
Conference
I'll
call.
definitely, I'll check.
that was our colleague. I drew a blank on her name.
Roxana.
Roxana.
Roxana, who designed, that was our conference theme, land labor protest, and she did the graphic for our conference folder.
Yeah, it's going to be a packed year and a packed fall indeed. We haven't decided yet when are we going to host a conference in 2024, but we definitely have to coordinate somehow with this other event in the US, so that folks can actually participate in both.
Exactly. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
But it will be
Great.
in October, no, or September.
And I know people are dropping in and out, but just to remind everyone, if you would like to put in the chat your interest, your connections to Appalachia, or your interest in other mountain regions around the world, and maybe an email address if you're comfortable with that, so people could follow up with you, that would be great. But yeah, does anybody else have a comment or question or just information they'd like to share about Mountain Connections?
I think it's important also to mention our connections. I mean, we've talked about Ukraine and but the Pre-Carpathian National University in Ivano-Frankivsk, we've got colleagues there. So if you're interested, we would be glad to connect you to that university as well. And they've had, at one of our previous Zoom sessions. Catherine, we had some representatives from the university speak, if I'm remembering correctly. Was it the president or the provost?
Yeah, we sure did. We actually had I believe it was the president of the university come to one of our Appalachian Studies conferences pre-COVID, long time ago. But yeah, we've had longstanding relationships with Ivano-Frankivsk, the Pre-Carpathian University there in Ivano-Frankivsk, and that flowed out of those Fulbrights that Don Davis and Chris Miller did back in the day. So yes, longstanding connections at that university.
We had 4 folks from there who we were trying to get to our conference this past October, but because of the border restrictions, they weren't able to go. But they actually held at the university. It was virtual, but they had an education conference, like their school of education. And yeah.
Well, if you all are interested, I could give you a little bit of a report from this workshop I attended in Scotland last week. I think some interesting things are happening there. The workshop I attended was organized by 2 faculty members at the University of St. Andrews. Jason Koenig, he's a classicist, and I'll do a book plug for Jason's book. This is hard to read, but he has just published an amazing book called The Folds of Olympus. And it's all about the mountain. Let's see, the Folds of Olympus, mountains in ancient Greek and Roman culture. And all I want to do is sit down and read this thing, but it's Christmas season and I'm doing all kinds of other stuff, but it is excellent. So Jason Koenig, Koenig is his last name. He and his colleague Dawn Hollis, DAWN HOLLIS, Dawn Hollis, she and he put together a one-day workshop at the University of St. Andrews. The topic was the mountain humanities, past, present, and potential futures. So about 10 of us got together. I was the only American in the group. Everybody else was either British or on the continent. But we spent a day brainstorming about ways that the mountain humanities can be kind of raised up to a level of interest and engagement, kind of what we're doing here, thinking about ways that mountain studies, whatever mountains you study, whether it's Appalachia or the Himalayan mountains or Carpathia or ancient mountains in the Greek and Roman culture, approaching those from a humanities perspective was the topic of the one-day workshop, and some very interesting folks there. If anyone's curious about that, I put my email in the chat, and just contact me and I can give you some contact information for those folks who were at that workshop. But we spent a very fruitful day. Some of the ideas that we generated, someone mentioned, I think it was Shipra, she got to us through the H Humanities network. If you all don't know that, check it out. Just Google H Humanities. Well, H Network, sorry. What's it called? H, and then they have an H Announce, Humanities Announce. Sorry, let me Google. Anyway, the the Humanities Network has a HNet. There we go. They have
net.
Yes, HNet. Thank you.
Yes.
They have discussion groups. So there's an H Pacific Studies. There's an H Civil War for the United States. There's topics about everything in the world. There's an H Appalachia. But we do not have an H Mountain Studies yet. So one of the ideas we came up with was to establish an H Mountain Studies network where we can start to share events and calls for papers and scholarships and fellowships, all those kind of things with each other. So that was one idea. We would also like to see a conference emerge from this. So we're hoping that the Appalachian Studies, the Appalachian State University Conference in October of 2024 would be a launching pad for every 2 to 3 years, another conference on the mountain humanities and social sciences going around the world. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with it was a series of 3 conferences called Thinking Mountains that happened from 2013 to 2019, I guess, or 2018. But those 3 conferences were put on by the University of Alberta. And they all 3 took place up there in the Canadian Rockies, in Edmonton, Jasper, and then Banff. Those 3 conferences had about 150 people at each one, and they were amazing. Unfortunately, those folks have lost the funding stream that allowed them to put on those conferences. And then they've had a few people leave for other positions. So they are no longer going to be doing those Thinking Mountains conferences, but they were a wonderful place for interdisciplinary research, sharing, and community engagement connections to be made. So one of the things that we generated out of this workshop in Scotland last week was we would like to see a humanities/social sciences conference happen around the world, going around the world every 2 years. So if anybody wants to join in that effort or has ideas about how we can make that happen, launching it hopefully from App State in fall of 24, please get in touch with me.
I'll give a little update if I can. And I didn't plan to, so I might get some of my facts all messed up. But I guess the first thing to say is Slava Ukraine. I'm married to a Ukrainian, and so we pay special attention, and the Carpathian connection is there. But I came to Appalachian Studies through South
Thanks a
communities.
lot. Glory to the heroes.
Glory to the heroes. So yeah, I came to Appalachian Studies through art and creative placemaking and oral history collecting. So that's kind of my side of it. But I built connections with dear friends in the mountains in Italy, northern Italy. And so they're here on the call, but had to step out and aren't able to be on the whole call. But I wanted just to give you all a heads up that they may be connecting with some of you. They've been working on a festival of anthropology of mountain people in Italy. And I want to say they've been doing that maybe for 5 years now. And also research and projects around people who have immigrated away. Here in Appalachia, we had a lot of Italian coal miners. And so they've been following the paths of people who moved away from Italy and back and forth. So yeah, it's lovely to see how our paths connect. And when I first met Giacomo, we were working on some community art projects, and we found just a lot of commonality in both being from the mountains, and so many shared shared cultural things that were surprises. So thank you for the welcome, and hopefully we can build some connections for that.
Carrie, is it like Torino area?
Well, my friends live about 2 hours from Milan, outside Parma. And it's slipping. They'll either put it in the chat or I'll send an email follow up. It's slipping which area it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, I do know, I was familiar with the work. Now they say in her, Alessandro Portelli, was that he's kind of a little on the right side of the top of the boot, and they're a little more on the left side of the top of the boot, if that makes sense. Yeah. Thank you.
He did some important oral history collecting.
Yeah.
Mhm. And Carrie, tell us again where you are.
I'm at Southeast Community and Technical College. So
Okay,
you all know Robert Geif.
of course.
He was my connection to initially to Appalachian Studies. So, yeah, that project. So I'm not actually in our Appalachian program. I am in our advancement office, but have just stayed in touch with that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank
Couldn't
you.
have a better guide than Robert Geip to get you involved in Appalachian studies. So that's wonderful. I think Shipra, you're the one sharing. Is that beautiful Himalayan mountain pictures?
Oh yeah, I wanted to share this picture. Yeah, did you see? It's
Wonderful.
it's from Suru Valley.
Absolutely beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
We would,
I
yeah,
collected 2 years back, so I just wanted to show you.
yes, well, I'll go ahead and confess my my fantasy is the schedule. I've fantasized wildly. I would love for a 2026 conference to be held in Japan. We have
Okay.
mountain connections in, I know, Berea College. I've been talking to some colleagues there and on this committee who may have some connections in Japan, and mountains are so central to Japanese life in so many ways. There's even a religion, a mountain focused. It's not Taoism or Buddhism. It's a separate
Yeah.
homegrown mountain religion in India. I'm blanking on the name of it. But yeah, mountains are really, really important in Japanese culture. And many of us in Appalachia have some Japanese connections. There's a vigorous old time and bluegrass scene. Our ETSU colleagues will know this in Japan. We've actually had here at Appalachian State University 3 Japanese students come to our master's program to do work. None of them were, well, one of them was a musician, but they've also worked on folklore and folk life and sustainable mountain tourism as well. So I would love to see a 26 conference happen in Japan. And then Shipra, my goal is then I would love to see a mountain studies conference go to India in 28. Well, that would be, yeah, 28. So
Sure. Yeah. I would
I
do
teach
my
a
best.
unit on the hill stations of India. So and so those mountain spaces, you know, many of them centered or focused in the foothills of the Himalayas, but of course all the way down the continent,
Himalayan Buddhism we have been doing, to practice Himalayan Buddhism, and then the Chinese Buddhism.
Absolutely. Well, anybody else want to jump in here and share something or make a connection?
If you allow me, I would like to add something. I've just few lines about in the messenger. I've shared a link to a video which was produced in the Carpathian Mountains under one of the most successful projects which we had through our NGO. It was a project about wildlife migration called Open Borders for Wildlife in the Carpathians. And I'm inviting you, when you have time, to watch it. It's on YouTube, and you can select the language. It was implemented together with WWF Romania and also partners from Slovak Republic and Hungary. So it's about 4 Carpathian countries.
Victoria, thank you for sharing that with us.
Hope you will like it.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, it was a very interesting project with camera traps and stuff, and we did photo trap few bears, lynxes. So we do have wildlife, and let's hope that very soon our focus from war consequences will be back again on ecological needs of the area.
Wonderful, thank you. And it looks like Shipra has shared another image with us.
Yeah, this is tea culture in Ladakh, Kashmir area. So they have the typical
beautiful.
Ladakhi kitchen. Ladakhi kitchen, and here is the teapot they prepare, and there's the tea spices and other things. So I just wanted to show you. Yeah. Can I stop it now?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, I think we all got to see. That's amazing. I have a colleague at Appalachian State. He doesn't work on Appalachian studies, but his area of specialization, he's from Nepal, and he works on sustainable mountain forestry in Nepal. So yeah, lots of opportunities for development and engagement. Another good place to look. Gosh, I don't have a physical copy of the book. Ann Kingsolver and Sassy, I'm forgetting his last name, starts with a B, on this committee as well. His name is listed on the list of committee
Hasi.
members. Yes.
Hasi. Yeah. Garu
So,
and Hasi. Yeah.
they co-edited, the University of Kentucky a while ago now, maybe 2016, 2017, hosted a mountain regions conference. There were a lot of people from South America and a lot of people from India who came to the University of Kentucky for that conference, and a book, a collection of essays emerged from that. Global Mountain Regions, I think, Teresa or Becky, isn't that the name of the book? Global Mountain Regions, I think. And it's an edited collection. So that's another great resource to go to find people who are interested in doing comparative mountain studies.
Okay. That's interesting. I'll find it out.
Indiana
Mhm.
University Press.
Indian University.
Let me see.
Oh, and thank you, Carrie, for that link. That looks, I'll look forward to a festival of mountain anthropology in northern Italy. That sounds amazing. And I'll tell you there's a great, I don't know that we have any museum studies people on here right now. Chris Miller, one of our one of our committee members, and one of the two fellows who had Fulbrights in Ukraine back in the day that kind of launched those connections for us. Chris Miller is a museum specialist, curator, and there, if anybody's interested, I think I would love to see an article written about mountain museums around the world. I haven't dug in there to see if such a thing exists, but there's some really interesting museums. There's one in Grenoble, and I don't know, Becky, if you got a chance to go to it.
Museum, I want.
Yeah, if
Mobile
anybody
museum. Yeah.
Okay, if anybody
My
has
idea of mobile museum.
Okay. So if anybody has, oh, good, Teresa's found something. So there's a wonderful museum called People of the Alps at in Grenoble, France. I got to go through that museum. It was really, really awesome. And then I have not been to any of these, but there are I think it's 6 or 8 museums that the climber Reinhold Messner put together. They're all over Italy, and they're each of these museums is focused on mountains by this climber Reinhold Messner. So check him out. His mountain museums. I haven't been to any of those, but they look amazing. Does anybody teach, for our teachers in the group, does anybody teach mountain studies courses? Or I know many of us teach Appalachian studies courses, but does anyone teach mountain studies or incorporate a lot of comparative mountain work in an Appalachian studies class?
Catherine, I'm working toward that. I teach a course in the environment in Appalachia. That's an undergraduate course. And then I developed a graduate level course to go beyond that. And so more so in the graduate course, we were making some international connections. And I am working toward building that into the undergraduate one as well. And I am teaching that course this next spring. So if anyone would like to be a guest speaker to talk about some international mountain issues, especially as related to the environment, I would very much welcome that. And I will put my email here in the chat, and you're welcome to reach out.
Thank you, Becky. I teach a graduate seminar. I call it Global Appalachia. When I developed the course about 8 years ago, I was going on this idea that I was going to develop something comparable to a course on the Global South. So the idea would be that mountain spaces around the world have there are points of intersection, right, between concerns in mountain places around the world, cultural productions, all kinds of things. So the course is called Global Appalachia for that reason, but it's kind of morphed over the years into a kind of an introduction at the graduate level to mountain studies. So what have mountains meant in thought throughout the ages? So we read Chinese mountain poetry. We look at, of course, the Enlightenment and the Romantic period and the emergence of climbing and interest in mountain sport and climbing. So anyway, I teach a graduate course. I'm happy to share that syllabus with anyone who's interested. And I also teach a graduate course called Mountain Literature. So we read some Appalachian literature in that course, but then we also focus, like, for example, I teach a novel called The Far Field, set in Kashmir. Teach a novel set in Bulgaria, in the mountains. I teach a novel, The Eight Mountains, set in the Dolomites of Italy. Teach a novel, a short novella from Switzerland. And we read that mountain literature. We also do Chinese mountain poetry and some Japanese writing. We do nature writing. If y'all don't know the piece of nature writing, excuse me, called The Living Mountain by Nan Shepherd, written in 1940s in Scotland about the Cairngorm Mountains. It was published in the 1970s, but that's an amazing piece of nature writing. Becky, that would be very good for your course, I think. It's called The Living Mountain.
Catherine, would you share your reading list with us?
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, I'll send that out to folks. And then I'm in early stages working on an anthology of mountain literature. So that's my research project right now, is to try to bring together a piece in one collection, interesting pieces of writing about mountains from around the world. So wish me luck on that. That's a huge project. So that's kind of what I'm up to. Anybody else doing any teaching?
I have taught music archaeology. Yeah. So
Did you
how
say-
people in the how people in the plain, by the seaside, they create music, by the riverside and by the mountain, how they create music, and the music culture of India. Yeah. So it's completely different from each other. So Himalayas to down south, it's a different kind of music, drumming, then bells, and that how they create rhythms and melodies. So that I have taught for 2 semesters. Yeah.
That makes me think of Becky might want to say something about Lee Bidgood's work.
Yes, thank you, Teresa. Yes, Lee Bidgood in our department is an ethnomusicologist, and he has spent some time in the Czech Republic, and he has a video. Banjo Romantica, and I'll see if I can find that link to put in here. But and that this is part of, you know, some of his connections have been really important for international this international outreach and the international music links with bluegrass and old time and roots music in our program. So let me find that link and I'll post that as well.
And he also has a book that he published, right, Becky? That's Czech bluegrass.
Yeah, Czech bluegrass. Yes, yes. So absolutely. Thanks for tooting our horns there, Teresa.
You're welcome. Well, and that was an important part of the first conference that Appalachian Carpathian Mountain Conference, because we went to the woodworking, well, the wood shop where they harvested the wood that went out to luthiers. And I think Lee was partly responsible for organizing that.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah.
Christy, am I saying that right? Is that how it was, that Lee was with the wood shop that we went to? Lee Bidgood? Yeah.
Jasper was,
Oh, Jasper.
yes,
Okay.
not Lee,
Okay.
but they were both in the same trip.
Yeah. And so, yeah, we should say something about Jasper Wall, because he's on this committee. I don't guess he could join us today, but he has done incredible cross-cultural research around music. And I think he just graduated with his doctorate, with his PhD from Ohio State 2 years ago, maybe, I think. Thanks, Becky, for putting that in the chat.
I remember that he was teaching at the Ohio State, and at some point he was following a scholarship or something in somewhere in the Gulf countries, but I forgot which one was
Okay.
that. In the Arab Peninsula. That was the last news that we had from him.
Okay.
Now, before our conference this year.
Yeah.
We invited him and he said that he could not participate as he was expecting this scholarship to happen. So that.
Yeah, and I put Jasper's name in the chat. Sorry, I misspelled it at first. But yeah, if you just Google his name, Jasper has, again, as Teresa says, he's a part of this committee, the International Connections Committee of the Appalachian Studies Association. But Jasper has some wonderful connections in Georgia and Azerbaijan and the Caucasus Mountains region. So he's kind of our person who has the most going on right now in the Caucasus Mountains. So he would be a wonderful person to get in touch with if you're interested in that part of the world, in the mountains in that part of the world.
And you can also, I put in the chat the link to his article that he published in 2019 at the previous conference edition. And there is a summary there of his work with the workshop that produces the wood for musical instruments, and how he saw this connection between Appalachia and Carpathia. And it's a wonderful part of kind of auto ethnography for him. I'll search for the link and I will share with you.
And so that the Transylvania University, what's the official title? Is it the Bulletin of Transylvania University?
Yeah, it's the Bulletin of the Transylvania University of Brasov.
So it's a peer-reviewed journal.
No, she's going to post it on the chat panel.
But so that's just another plug. It's a peer-reviewed journal that you know, as an option, just like, for example, Appalachian Journal. Becky mentioned Now and Then. Appalachian Journal is published out of Appalachian State under Sandy Ballard. The ASA Journal, if you're thinking of, publication opportunities.
Yeah, so we have the Appalachian Studies Association Journal it's called the Journal of Appalachian Studies. And that one's the one published by our association. And then at Appalachian State University, I know it becomes a word soup here, but the peer review journal there is Appalachian Journal. So lots of opportunities to look at scholarship that's been done over the years on the region. So longstanding journals, the Appalachian Journal at Appalachian State was founded in 1972. And the journal for the association, I guess that would have been in the mid 1980s. Teresa and Becky, I would assume that was about the time that the conference started. I will say that in addition to our hopes for out of that workshop in Scotland, people's desires to see an H Mountain Studies on HNet and a conference every couple of years going around the world, humanities and social sciences focused interdisciplinary mountain studies conference. In addition to that, we also noodled around with the idea of a mountain studies journal, a humanities and social sciences focused journal that would publish mountain studies work from an interdisciplinary worldwide perspective. So I have a couple of colleagues who are very familiar excuse me, with the publishing in the UK, and they were talking about possibly trying to pursue founding a journal for mountain studies, which I think would be amazing. There are several journals already for sustainable mountain development or mountain science, but there's no journal that's specifically focusing on the humanities and social sciences from a global perspective rather than a regional one.
Ada, what time are you planning on doing?
Well, anybody else have connections or questions or cool stuff they want to share? I tell you, we've got a lot of fingers in the pie. Is that the saying for mountains around the world here?
Jetta and Christy, for some reason, I can't get those sites to load, just to let you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just spinning.
Try the last one.
Okay.
The last one is the
There's the 2016 one.
But-
They're loading for me, but
yes.
yeah.
They are okay. They should be.
And Casey, welcome. I see that you wrote in the chat a bit about yourself and your interests. You are more than welcome to hang out with us and join. So yeah, I see that you wrote some stuff here in the chat, but anything you want to share with us or interests that you'd like to explore?
Hi. Yeah, I wasn't sure if I was allowed to join the group, but I'm just starting my PhD and I'm doing research on Appalachia. I'm originally from Tennessee, and then I've also lived in Northern Appalachia and Pennsylvania, and have done a lot of community-based work. But my PhD is in communication and culture, and I'm actually in Toronto right now at York University. So I saw this group and I was like, oh, this is a way that I can connect back with my people when people doing mountain research. But I'm studying women's empowerment in rural communities, specifically rural Kentucky, Appalachia, Fiji, Bahamas, and then Nova Scotia. It's got a long ways to go. I'll be doing field research next year. So I'm just happy to find you guys and just listening to your conversation. Hopefully I can stay connected. So
amazing.
Nice to
Hello,
see you.
Casey.
Yeah,
Hello
welcome.
from Johnson City, Tennessee.
Oh, awesome.
So
yeah.
All the
Well,
best to you.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the Appalachian Studies Association for your particular connection to the region is going to be just perfect for you. So please do check us out online. We have a new website up and going, Appalachian Studies Association. If you just Google that, you'll get to us. And this is a little Zoom event organized by one of the committees, the International Committee.
Okay.
But yeah, we're delighted to make connections with you and to welcome you to Appalachian Studies. Yeah, plan to come. It's probably you could come as an attendee to the conference in Ohio. The call for papers is way past for
I've been
the
watching that, but I might come
yeah.
as an attendee.
Yeah, so come and hang out with us, or definitely the next. I haven't heard. Well, rumor has it, are we coming to Western North Carolina, Western Carolina University? Has Becky, Teresa, has that been announced?
I haven't heard. I knew that they were looking for a home for the next conference,
Yeah,
but
for
I
the
haven't
24.
heard.
This would be the spring of 24. No, yes, I'm getting the years mixed up. Spring of 24 conference. I've heard a rumor that it might be held here in Western North Carolina at a sister institution of ours called Western Carolina University in Cullowhee, North Carolina, which is only about, I don't know, 45 minutes from Asheville. If you've heard probably of any city or a town, big town in Western North Carolina, it's going to be Asheville. So don't have a confirmation on that, but I heard a rumor that they're trying to bring it to there. So any of you interested,
They held it
please
there
join us.
before, didn't they? Because
I think so. It's been a while.
yeah, but I do remember going there. Casey, where in Tennessee are you from?
That's kind of a complex story. I'm from a lot of places in Tennessee. So I did grow up most of my life though in Middle Tennessee, not Appalachia, but I have family in La Follette and Appalachia, and then in Middle Tennessee it's Gallatin and Portland, mostly Portland, Tennessee on the Tennessee-Kentucky state line.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, Becky is in Johnson City and I'm in Bristol, actually.
Okay.
I grew up on the Tennessee side, but I'm on the Virginia side now.
Yeah, I love Bristol. It's so fascinating how it's Virginia and Tennessee.
Yep. Jetta and Christy, my colleagues from Romania, were down with me in July, and I have a great picture of Jetta taking a picture in the middle of State Street with the plaques with Tennessee and Virginia. So
yeah,
I was about to say we know it too now. Somehow, yes.
It was a whirlwind tour.
Yes.
Hey, Catherine Engel.
Hi, I'm sorry. I had this in my calendar as 2:00 instead of noon, and then now I realized that was wrong. So apologies, everyone.
No, glad to see you. Do you have any announcements from UK about international stuff going on, or anything that you want to talk about?
Yeah. Let's see. I'm ill prepared. Good to see you too, and Teresa and Becky and all the friends. Well, we are working on some possible, well, I guess back up. Dr. Ledford led a wonderful trip in September for the Teaching Mountains workshop. And so a group of UK folks were able to go and made some connections with some friends in the Alps. And so we're looking at possibilities there for hosting some international scholars. We've had an interesting semester. We have a new dean, and so it's been some changes at the university, but we're sticking with it. The big thing on the horizon is our graduate students are having the annual Research Symposium and Arts Showcase that is in March. I can't remember the exact date. I think it's in March, February or March. It's before ASA. And so if anybody has any students, undergrad or graduate students who are doing any research or creative works relating to Appalachia that would like a friendly place to share that, you're more than welcome to come see us in Lexington
And
really
I
some-
just dropped in the chat, for those of you who don't know, there's, it's old school now. Remember listservs? We still have an active one going. It has about 600 people on it. It's called AppleNet, AppalNet. If you just Google AppleNet listserv, that should come up, and you can join that. That's hosted at the University of Kentucky. They call it UK. So don't get in on their international call here. Don't get confused. We're not talking about Catherine Ingle might wish she was in the UK right now, although they've got so many strikes going on. You probably don't want to be over there. But yeah, AppleNet listserv is a great place to stay in touch with Appalachian Studies folks.
But yeah, I think that's the major thing we're working on is we'll have that symposium. And that's a student-led symposium in the spring. So,
And Catherine, before I forget, Teresa earlier pointed us to I guess an agency called Erasmus Plus that helped her and her colleagues at Radford host some international teachers. Is that right, Teresa? And that might be something that Catherine could use.
It's an agreement. It's an exchange agreement between EU institutions, so countries in the EU and their universities, and the Erasmus Plus is outside of the EU. So, for example, Radford University has an agreement with Transylvania University. So yeah, it's something to explore, because we exchange faculty and we also have student exchanges.
The mobility program. So EU has that internally for a long time now, but for about several years they started actually to expand outside of the EU border. So that's Erasmus Plus. So yeah, it's a mobility program. So it facilitates, it actually pays for it, fully funds, either students for a semester or teachers or staff for about 2 weeks, something like this. But yeah, it has to be made between the institutions. So the European Union provides just the framework. It's the universities that have to actually set up the agreement and make sure that all the credits actually are transferable, all these things. And then you depend on the funding. So each year, you basically have to reapply, but yeah, it's an opportunity.
And, speaking of opportunities, something else that comes to mind, I was thinking about Don Davis, and he, outside of the Fulbright, I mean, he had a Fulbright, but there different universities, including Transylvania University, have visiting scholars, so that you could look into different, like if you're interested in a particular area, you could look at a university and see if they host visiting scholars so that you could come and teach for a semester and do research or whatever. But that's another opportunity.
cool. Yeah, thanks. And I guess I should also say my colleague, Dr. Ann Kingsolver, has also been working on some connections with folks in Ireland, and we're having Chandana Mathur from Maynooth University is coming also in the spring, and is going to be doing some talks and working with Ann's Global Appalachia class. So, and I think she was going to be coming to ASA, but maybe she's now not. They were changing. I think this schedule got switched around, but yeah, so that's another international connection we're excited for.
And Anne is actually a member of this committee as well. She couldn't make it today, but yeah, she's part of this group that's working to internationalize Appalachian studies and make connections around the world. So yeah.
And speaking of Kingsolver, I'll just put, and I haven't read it yet, in full disclosure, her sister, Barbara Kingsolver, has a new novel out called Demon Copperhead. And it is based in Lee County, Southwest Virginia, about the opioid epidemic. And the framework is after Dickens' David Copperfield. She was actually at Bleak House in Broadstairs, England, when she had this epiphany about how to frame the novel. And 3 of my graduate students came down this semester, and she read at the Martha Washington Inn from the novel. And unfortunately, they sold out, but I'm going to get a copy soon. So, and people, some of my friends have read it and said it was outstanding.
That's great to know, Teresa. I'll have to put that on my too many books and not enough time to read. Don't we all suffer that way? Yeah. I see Stanley Brun. Hello.
Hi, I've been listening to you for the past 45 minutes, and it's very inspiring to know what young people and senior people are doing. I should say something. Catherine is doing a splendid job directing the Appalachian Center at UK. She's a very inspiring person, so we really appreciate all she's been doing. I have a long time interest in Appalachia as well as many other regions of the world. But a couple of topics I'm really interested in, let me share with you, and maybe you can think of somebody who's interested in collaborating with me on a project. One, I'm very interested in looking at the networking in recovery, natural disaster recovery operations. Churches, NGOs, community, regional, international. I think it'd be very interesting to know the linkages that exist and the people that are interested really in help. And these could be financial, they could be volunteer work, as Catherine can share with you what UK has been doing. And these could be spiritual groups, religious groups, they could be environmental groups, they could be people coming for short terms or long term, but I think it'd be a very interesting project to look at because it's really international, multi-dimensional, multi-regional. So if anyone is interested in that, just my email address is brun@uky.edu. The other topic I'm really interested in, because I'm editing a book called Time Journeys, looking at how that concept can be applied in many different contexts. But one chapter I'm really trying to find somebody to write about, and it's almost like finding a needle in a haystack, it seems, is looking at the family networks in some region of Appalachia. I'm not a native of Appalachia. When I came to University of Kentucky in 1980, I learned very quickly that many people could identify second, third, fourth, and fifth, and sixth cousins. I never could do that. But many people can. And I'd be interested in finding somebody that's willing to undertake the mapping of that network, because it really is something that's in people's heads, or to talk about a family tree, but a family trees can also be mapped, can't it? So where does one take someone who's 85 or 90 years old, who has a very good memory of all brothers and sisters and cousins and fourth and fifth and sixth cousins, and make a map of showing where do those members of that tree live? And maybe interesting to take several different families, because I would imagine, I don't know, but maybe you can share your own thoughts about this. But my thinking is that some of these extended families are very, very local, almost in the same county, but others are not. Others are really more regional, and some are extra regional. But they can all identify these third, fourth, fifth, and sixth cousins and relatives and uncles and aunts and everything else. And I think that'd be very interesting to work with somebody who's willing to share that memory and put that on a map. I've never seen a map of this dimension, but I think it'd be a contribution to varying literatures. Okay, the third topic I'm looking at, I'm editing this book called Time Journeys. And I have a couple of people writing about family cemeteries. Because family cemeteries are very special in Appalachia, aren't they? They're very special. Who gets in, who doesn't get in, and why? Where is somebody buried? Next to whom? And some of these family cemeteries are very well taken care of, manicured landscape features, aren't they? But some are just kind of overgrown. But something about the history of, I'd say, African American or Appalachian with long family histories, something about that heritage is an important part of understanding a journey. And I have friends in Appalachia that tell me that I know where I'm going to be buried. And I know whom I'm going to be buried next to. I don't want to be buried next to this person, but wouldn't mind being buried next to this person. Or others would say that they plan for this and all events that go into it. Because those of you who know of family cemetery histories in Appalachia, these are very special events. Anniversaries, holidays, grandparents' birthdays, and these are really family gatherings, just like a funeral. In many ways, it's a subset of the family tree, isn't it, in many ways? So if any of you know anybody that's interested in working on this, have them contact me, or then contact Catherine and she can send me an email if she gets it. I'd be interested in working on these topics. I think they're very, very interesting. Thank you.
Stanley, I'm sitting here thinking that sounds like a classic anthropology kinship study. And it's not something I can do, but it is pretty fascinating. And unfortunately, kinship studies have kind of gone out of favor in anthropology, but that was kind of one of the foundational ways the discipline got started. So it might be worth kind of a look to see in anthropology if anybody's still doing that well, they are in other places, but it's really just not something you do in the United States. But it would be fascinating. So
well, if anybody knows anybody, have them contact. Kinship studies can be tables, charts, but they can also be maps. And many people who have very good memories know exactly where all those people live. This could be somebody who's 75 or 80 or 85. Yeah. They've got lucid memories, and put that on a map. I think in part it's an effort. I think it maybe maybe it's sort of cartographic kinship work. Okay, that's what because I'm a geographer and I'm curious not only but where do these people live? Up the holler, next college, next county, next state, across the I don't know, but I think it's a good example of, I would say, revitalizing kinship work in a cartographic context.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think if you bring in GIS with that, there could be some really interesting.
That's a good suggestion. So if you know somebody who's GIS is, but I think you'd really want to find somebody who really is maybe 80, 85, who has a lucid memory of all the generations in the past.
Stanley, are you on AppleNet, that AppleNet listserv that I just mentioned?
I am not. Can you put something on AppleNet for me?
I'm happy to, if you just want to email.
I'll send you a message and you can.
Yeah, just send me a little message. And like I said, there's about 600 people from mainly in Appalachia, but we have people from other parts of the country as well who are interested in Appalachia, who are part of that. But that might be a good way to see if there's anybody out there who would be interested in partnering with you on a project like that.
I'd be willing to pay $7,500 to tell.
Wow. Goodness.
And not be deceptive and make up your relatives. Okay.
That's good. Well, we are coming up on about 10 minutes until the end of our little time together when we're, and again, this is intended to be a drop-in, so don't feel compelled to stay in here with us, but it's great for Catherine to be able to join us. I'm glad you, Catherine Engel, I'm glad you got your schedule and serendipitously got with us. So very cool to have you. Any other connections, comments? Shipra, did you want to say something?
There is one FCT, Forum on Contemporary Theory in India. So you can connect with that center. So if you want to organize the conference or workshop, so they collaborate, they do the collaborative research and projects. Yeah.
Okay, great. If you could put
I'll
that,
mail
the
you.
name
I'll
of that
mail
in the chat, I haven't checked to see, but if you
Sure.
haven't done that,
Sure.
yeah, that would be great. That would be very helpful for me. Sorry, I turned myself off. Let me just say a word about the UN's International Mountain Day. So this is really, we've organized this event to celebrate that and to draw attention to Appalachia. The UN started paying particular attention to mountains in the early 1990s. There was a conference in Rio in 92, I think it was the Rio conference it's called. And there was real attention paid to mountains and the centrality of mountains. And so the UN eventually established International Mountain Day, held on December 11th every year. So our intention here with the International Connections Committee of the Appalachian Studies Association is to try to start doing some type of Zoom event every year to draw attention to Appalachia and to celebrate the mountains on that day. This year's theme, there's a theme every year. This year's theme was Women Move Mountains. So we tried to put together a panel discussion, and I tried to put together a panel discussion. I'm the chair of the committee, and I failed because I just didn't get my act together soon enough to try to do this. But just to pique your interest, we came up as a committee with a whole big long list of names of women scholars, women community members, community activists in the region of Appalachia who have paid an incredible just done incredible work, scholarly work and community work for the mountains, for mountain communities. We could just start listing off names but if you do some Googling around with women in Appalachia, women of Appalachia, there is a scholar, gosh, I'm forgetting her name now, at West Virginia University who's writing a history of women in Appalachia. And so if you Google around a bit, I bet you could find that. But yeah, the topic for the theme for this year was Women Move Mountains, and Appalachian mountain women certainly do that. Catherine, Teresa, Becky, anybody want to toss out some names of mountain women scholars and community members that these people could get interested in?
One thing we are also, I'm trying to get together for the beginning of the semester at UK, and which will actually also be open to the public. We lost Helen Lewis this fall. So I think we might be doing a little book club on her book, Living Social Justice in Appalachia, that Judy Jennings and Pat Beaver edited. So yeah, she's definitely up there and was a big loss this past year.
So Helen Lewis is one person to look into. Gosh, other scholars who've done work. Sally Maggard, Maggard. Gosh, I'm going to get myself in trouble by forgetting people. But yeah, everybody else help me.
Grace
Teresa.
Tony Edwards, Beth Bingman. You mentioned Pat Beaver.
Barbara Ellen Smith.
Yep.
Mary England.
Elizabeth Englehart.
Yes.
Has some really great books.
Emily Satterwhite, if we're thinking of younger folks, and Erica Abrams Locklear.
Rice and Francisco did Women of the Mountains South, isn't maybe the name of that book?
That's, yeah, Catherine, that's what I was thinking. It was edited by Marie Tedesco, and it came out 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh, it's been longer than that now, I think, Becky.
Yeah, I think it's been a little.
Has it been longer?
Connie Rice and Marie Tedesco. Yeah, we did a book thing. We did a thing at ASA 2015.
Yeah, so just some ideas to get you going. Women in Appalachia, women writing about, doing research on Appalachia, and of course, community engagement folks. You can't go wrong by learning about EULA, Hall, Eula, and then her last name is Hall, Hall. And so we lost her a couple of years ago, I think, as well. But she was an incredible woman from Eastern Kentucky, and was very, very interested in healthcare and providing healthcare to her neighbors. And she founded an institution called the Mud Creek Clinic in Eastern Kentucky, a grassroots organization. She worked hard, and her colleagues worked hard to get that funded to provide health care in an area of our mountains that was really underserved. So Eula Hall, I guess for a women's focused International Mountain Day, you can't go wrong with putting your hand up and learning about Eula Hall. I think she would be a great one. Strong mountain woman for sure.
And Merritt Moore, I think about Merritt and she's got her collections down at Becky's institution at ETSU, but she wrote, it was Oral Histories, Women in the Mines, which is just an incredible read. I think about Anne and Catherine Pancake, and I mean, fiction, but it's a great documentation of our region, and her sister Catherine with her Black Diamonds. Was that the name of the documentary that her sister did? Yeah. I'm thinking about Guy and Carrie Carowin, with the work down at Highlander Research and Education Center. Golly, I know we're forgetting important people because we're on the spot.
I know.
We have a lot of sisters out there that it's hard to get them all in your head at once. I know.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
if you want an example of an historical geographer, look at Ellen Churchill Semple. School's named after her in Louisville. He wrote about Anglo-Saxons in Eastern Kentucky, I think in 1927. It'd be very good master's thesis dissertation topic to take a look at Ellen Churchill Semple in a feminist perspective. It'd be very much of a contribution. The geography department used to have an annual celebration day called Ellen Churchill Semple Day, but they changed the name several years ago because they found out that she was really basically racist.
That makes me think of Effie Waller-Smith, African-American poet, early 20th century, and just how important her work is. Yeah, Casey, I was going to say, if you need any resources, please feel free to reach out to us. I mean, I can speak, I know, for my colleagues and say we are more than willing to help you.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is really helpful. I'm actually building my comps list right now, and I've been wanting to put more Appalachian scholars on there, and my supervisors don't know where to turn. So this is really helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and do reach out to us if you need additional help.
Let's see, Carrie Curley just joined us. Carrie Curley, how are you?
Real good, real good. It's good to see everyone. I
It's
hope
good to
my
see you.
volume is working. But thanks for the email reminder too, Catherine. All right.
Catherine, you're on mute.
I'm losing my Zoom skills. I told Teresa earlier, I haven't been on here enough lately, thankfully, because of
Thank
COVID.
goodness.
Yes, absolutely. So I have to keep those skills up. But yeah, it's the as we said, the International Mountain Day on December 11th is tough because of academic calendars and holiday calendars and schedules. So, but I'm glad we could get together. Carrie, you just joined us, but I hate to sign off, but we're 2:00 is their kind of ending time here. If you want to stay on and chat with me, I'll be happy to. But
That's okay, Terry. I thought we were starting at 2 too. It's all right.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry. I hope I didn't make a mistake on the announcements.
No, you didn't. There.
Yeah, well, but thank you all so much for spending some of your time with us today. Again, if you want to know more about Appalachia and the connections we're making to other mountain regions and mountain people around the world, check out our website. It's the Appalachian Studies Association. And then we have an International Connections Committee, which put this event on today. So great to see familiar faces, wonderful to make new friends. And this is what this kind of moment is supposed to be all about. So thanks to everybody. And follow up with me. I've got email addresses, and we'll stay in touch then. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks, Catherine.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Victoria.
Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.